right, guys, welcome back to Cosmic Origins. XRP did something crazy the last few days. In our last video, we talked about how it's been exactly 589 days to the day that Brad Garlinghouse, representing Ripple, met with President Trump. The first time was in Mar-a-Lago. This time was at the White House. They did a public presser with a bunch of people from the crypto industry, and Brad was there. And it was literally 589 days, which you can't make up. Well, now in the few days after that, we're looking at some crazy price action, particularly for XRP. Right now, XRP is sitting $1.49.81, and it literally went up 70%. You can see right here, it bottomed out around 95 to 97 cents, depending on the market you're looking at. And according to this one right here on BitTrue, we topped out at about $1.69, $1.70. So that's literally a nearly, if not a little more, 70% increase within just a short amount of time, within a week or so. So that is absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and take a look at the coin market cap just to compare against other coins, because everything is up right now. But XRP is up the most. So we have Bitcoin up 22%, Ethereum up even more at nearly 30%. Tether shouldn't be moving, up at 0.09%. XRP up currently at 49.59% on the week. But like we said, it actually got quite a bit higher, and we did a bit of a retracement. So we're going to get into why this happened. We're going to get into what's going on in the world with crypto, what Brad Garlinghouse has been up to, what we're seeing coming up with the Clarity Act, like we talked about in the last video. But I want to use this time as a reminder first that you should be moving your crypto, and maybe not everybody, but the majority of people out there, I believe, should be moving their crypto to a private cold storage wallet right away. Don't leave that stuff on the exchange, okay? We've seen crazy things happen with the most trusted exchanges in the world, FTX being one of them just a few years ago. Number one exchange, people lost all their money in it. So it doesn't matter if it's a Coinbase or a Kraken. We want to think that these things are going to stick around and do well. And hopefully, probably they do. But you never know when an FTX or like a Mt. Gox type scenario could happen. And that's why it's extremely, extremely important to set up a private crypto cold storage wallet like the DCENT wallet here. This is the one that we teach you how to use in Conscious Crypto Academy. And the reason why is because on a cold storage wallet, no private entity can mess with your funds. Nobody can come in and freeze your account and do whatever, which is what we see happen quite a bit when the price, especially of XRP, is skyrocketing. The exchanges will often go down. They'll have issues. They'll freeze people's accounts. All sorts of funny business happens. So when you have a private wallet, even if this company goes out of business, we teach you how to recover your wallet into another brand. So even if this brand goes away, there's no problem with it, right? You get what are called secret keys or a seed phrase, which means that's the ultimate password into your crypto, which you can do with any brand of wallet. So that's why it's so important to set up a private wallet, even if it's not this brand, even if you use another one. But this is the one that I've come to really love. There is a discount link for it in the description if you want to get this particular one. And if you're sitting here going, okay, I got XRP, I got some other crypto maybe, but I've got it on Coinbase or I've got it on Kraken, and I just don't know what to do. I'm too hesitant. You're afraid to move it off. You don't want to lose it. You don't want to make a mistake. That's exactly why I have Conscious Crypto Academy. That's exactly what it's designed to help you with. We help beginners, whether you're a total beginner, never bought crypto, or you have a little bit and you got it on the exchange, or you have a lot and you have it on an exchange, maybe even have it on a wallet already, but you don't really know what to do with it. You don't know how to set it up for passive income. You don't know how to diversify into other cryptos, how to set up liquidity pools, different DeFi mechanisms. These are all the things that we could teach you in Conscious Crypto Academy, so that you're not just holding your crypto on an exchange or even in a wallet, but you're actually putting it to use. And we're making use of our cryptocurrency even when the market's down. So even for something like XRP, right now there's not a native way to stake it or generate passive income, but we are tracking multiple ways in Conscious Crypto that I think in the next year, specifically after Clarity Act passes, there's going to be multiple ways to generate passive income with our XRP in particular. Now, we can already do liquidity pools and some other things, but native staking or a centralized or decentralized way to generate interest on our XRP is what we're really looking for. And I believe that that is going to be coming up in the next few months or so. And so that's where being in Conscious Crypto Academy can help prepare you for that so that you're not caught off guard when it happens, so that you can take advantage of the opportunities as soon as they're available. We're meeting every week. We're talking every week for multiple hours on a group coaching call about what's going on. We look at the markets, we look at the charts, we look at these news stories like we're doing here, but it gives you the opportunity to talk to me face to face and the other members and really make it more of a communal thing that you get briefed on week to week. So if that is up your alley and that interests you, check out my website. You can book a call with me directly as well. Free 30-minute strategy call in the description below if you're interested in joining and you want to learn a bit more. So let's move on here. This was what happened that I covered in my last video, where, as I was just talking about, Brad and a bunch of other key figures in the crypto space, we have the Winklevoss twins from Gemini, and a handful of other people that were with Trump when they talked about crypto and the Clarity Act and supporting the Clarity Act, and that we need to get it passed. It's got to go through, which is being heavily fought by the left right now. They really do not want Clarity Act to go through because they represent the banking class who is threatened by this technology. So this is where, XRP, these other ISO 20022 coins, as much as the skeptics like to call them the banker's coin, they are in their root anti-establishment banker. That's the whole point, is that they're undermining exactly what the bankers feed on, which is the friction in the financial system. And I think we're at a point now, like I've been saying, where the banks are going to have to step up their game. They're going to have to provide new, unique services to their customers if they want to stick around in the long run, because crypto is just going to dominate everything, and all the opportunity and all the safety is going to be in crypto. And it already is, right? This is why I got into crypto in the first place. One of the reasons, because I saw so many of my friends get demonetized, get their PayPals, get their YouTubes demonetized, everything shut down. Happened in the Canadian trucker rally, as I often bring up. And crypto is the only way that you can store money in the digital realm, outside of keeping cash under your mattress or some gold and silver at home. But everything's digital now, right? So we need to have a way in the digital realm to be able to store wealth without have it being threatened or vulnerable to those who wish to see us, frankly, at our demise. So that's why, to me, this is such an important thing and a mission that's going on planet Earth right now, and particularly for XRP, that, not only is it destroying and getting rid of and undermining the banking cartel class, but it's also, in my opinion, the single greatest opportunity in human history to create generational wealth that'll be passed on for generations to come to your kids and their kids and their kids. I think that this is going to be one of, if not the best opportunity in human history to do that. And the people that are feeling called to it, there's no mistake. And I'm going to actually jump ahead here because it's relevant, to, let's see, where this clip right here, because this is what I'm always talking about. And I saw this on X, and it got a little bit of attention, and it's cool to see people realizing this more and more. And so basically he's talking about, why the spiritual pull to XRP, which we've obviously discussed a lot on this channel, but it is getting more and more traction in the collective consciousness as this gravitational point that people are feeling intuitively called to. And maybe you're in that boat. Maybe you're in that boat and you haven't done it yet. And, that's what I can help you out with. So hit me up if that's you. But this is something that, whether you're a Christian or you're more general, spiritual new age category, if you want to call it that, or you are atheist even, and you're getting a strong intuitive pull. He goes over all these here. No matter what it is, there is a guiding force that is guiding the right people to XRP at this time. And that's not something to be ignored, at least for me. If you want to ignore it, that's your own path. If you're not called to it, I'm not even sure why you're watching this video, honestly. But if you are, there's a reason to it. And that's the whole mission behind Conscious Crypto too, is like helping the people who feel called to this, who don't have the time, the energy, or, the a technical capacity, because technology and crypto especially can be very overwhelming. It's a lot to learn by yourself. It took me a year plus to really dial it in, doing it every day, researching trial and error before I started getting asked to help coaching people. And so you can learn it yourself, and I urge you to if you have the time and energy. But for those that don't, that's where getting a coach, an assistant, getting in a community like we have can be super, super helpful because you can spend your time and energy where it's best suited and then come in and check with us every week, get the updates, get the new opportunities that are available, whether it's different projects or it's different passive income opportunities and styles with our crypto. But going back to the root here, this is to me the biggest part of this whole thing, that this is a spiritual phenomenon that's happening. And the fact that you're seeing it across the board with Christians, with spiritual people in general. I don't know what label to put on that, but people like myself who don't go under any labels but are on our awakening path. Um, there is something very, very important there. And I would say if you're feeling that, listen to your intuition. And you always got to follow your gut, but there's some people that are being guided to this, and then there's other people that are not. And I think it's for a reason. I think the people that are being guided to it tend to be the people who have, from what I'm seeing, tend to be the people who actually want to do good with this wealth and not just use it to glorify yourself and be a materialist and have mansions and Lambos and all that, but to actually help build the new earth. And he gets into the quantum side of this and quantum mechanics and how it's drawing people in. But I think that that's the core of why people are feeling guided, because whatever you want to call it, God, source, your higher self, angels, guardians, there is a higher intelligence out there that is guiding people to this for a reason. And these are going to be the people that are going to have the funds to actually change the planet and actually build the infrastructure that we need, that we wonder why all these CEOs and billionaires and elite class are not doing. Some of them are starting to work on it, but for the most part, they've not been. And so I think God is creating an opportunity for us to flip the pyramid, to put the money in the hands of the people who are actually going to do positive change, and to use that as a catalyst to help create the new earth. And I'm so happy to be a part of that and so happy that you guys are here, because I'm sure everyone that's still here watching is already on, that mission to a degree and feeling that pull. And if you're not, hey, that's why I'm here. Keep watching. Join Conscious Crypto if you need more help. But let's go back here and go through some of these other stories. So we have, just after that event with Trump, Brad Garlinghouse posted, "No August doldrums in DC this week. It was great to join the inaugural CFTC, which is one of the other agencies that has helped regulating crypto next to the SEC, the CFTC Innovation Advisory Committee, a group I've called the Olympic roster of crypto, but for a crypto gathering. There were a lot of TradFi players in the room, like NASDAQ, CME, options, stock exchange, DTCC. Everyone was in agreement. Rules for a different era aren't so good enough, meaning, like they did with the Ripple lawsuit, they tried to bring up, I'm forgetting what it's called now, but an old definition of commodities that went back to like oranges and orange groves and how that was dealt with as a commodity, stuff from like 100 years ago they were trying to apply to this new industry, and it just is not going to work. So that's what Ripple really fought for in this lawsuit and eventually won. And just to put it out there again, XRP is still the only crypto out there with a judge's declaration of full legal clarity as a commodity in the retail space. So yes, there are other cryptos in regulations that have been drafted up since, like Bitcoin, Solana, and a couple of others, including XRP, obviously, that are currently being classified as a commodity and not a security. But XRP, because of Ripple, is the only one that has a judge's order from the gavel that this is not a security, and that puts it in a class of its own, which to me, if Clarity Act does not go through, and this is something I get asked about a lot, both in my Conscious Crypto group and from people online, um, what's going to happen to XRP if that doesn't go through? Could it actually be really good for XRP? And the potential is there, because if Clarity doesn't go through, and if some of these other backup options that we're going to get into don't work the way that they're intended, that might actually end up being really good for XRP as the only one with full judge declared legal clarity as not a security. So there is a silver lining. If Clarity Act doesn't get passed, it could be actually the best thing ever for XRP, but maybe not so for the rest of crypto. I do think personally we're going to get regulation, but if we have a period of time where XRP is the only one that's regulatory compliant, I don't got a problem with that if XRP is skyrocketing and the rest of the market is not. So we have another clip here from Brad speaking live at the CFTC meeting. I'll go ahead and play this clip. It's only about a minute long.
Makes. I think it's profound, as you've heard from several people here, how significant that shift has been. You asked for some examples. I think it was Brian that referenced that you didn't want to invest $5 million and have $4 million go to legal bills. Ripple spent $150 million on outside legal counsel during our 4-year battle with the SEC. Most companies would not have, and frankly, other companies were bullied into submission prior to the lawsuit with Ripple. Suffice it to say, from my point of view, and I think everyone here would probably agree, the status quo is not good enough for consumers or for innovation. I think it's absolutely imperative we have these clear rules of the road, both to protect users, but also hold companies accountable and give responsible businesses the certainty to build here in America. You asked for examples. 80% of Ripple's hiring for those 4 years was non-US. Even today, our second largest office is London because of that legacy that has shifted under the leadership of this president and this administration, the CFTC and SEC. I think we all can agree that the technologies represented at the tables here can make moving money faster, more efficient, and more accessible. But we have to have clarity to unlock that potential responsibly. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you everyone for being here today to help achieve that.
So Brad is out here being our champion for this. I see a lot of people, skeptics, anti-XRP people say, hey, Ripple is scamming us. They're selling all this XRP. They're dumping on the market, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to clarify what's actually going on for a second. So Ripple does own, I think, currently about 40% of the supply of XRP. They were gifted that right after XRP was created, before Ripple was even a legal entity. And they do have an escrow, which has that 40%-ish locked up, where they get 1 billion XRP every month unlocked to use for operations. And then the rest of it, they lock it back up in that escrow, which from what I've seen tends to be the majority of that XRP every month that they're allocated to use actually gets locked back up. Now, what they're actually selling for is they're not selling it on the open market like on Coinbase or Kraken. They're not just dumping on the market like these critics try to say. They're selling it to institutional enterprises to use as a technology for cross-border payments and to soup up the financial system. So it's a very different thing than these critics try to make it out to be, that Ripple's just out there dumping on the market. Ripple also has the largest incentive amongst anybody out there, because they are the biggest holders, to make the price of XRP skyrocket and go as high as possible, simply because they own the majority of it and because it represents the majority of their balance sheet and their income. So their incentive is not to dump on the market and make the price go down. Literally, their business model currently runs on XRP sales, which they also get critiqued for holding too much XRP. So they get critiqued for holding too much, and then they get critiqued for selling it to institutions, which is actually how it's going to be used, which lowers their personal supply, which should appease those that are critiquing their supply. But these critics, they are going to criticize it no matter what, right? Because again, there's people out there who feel very drawn to this, like probably most of us. And hey, if you're watching this and you're not drawn to XRP, I give you props. Like, thanks for being here. But then there's people who feel so utterly repulsed by it that they'll find anything to criticize it. And I think that there's a deeper reason for that. The people that are feeling repulsed by it clearly are not meant to hold this, otherwise that they would feel called to it. And the people that tend to feel repulsed by it tend to be not so nice people from what I've encountered. They're the kind of people that are the keyboard warriors online who just want to argue with people all day. So it really shows you the type of individual and soul that is either attracted or repulsed by this. And it's all meant to be, right? We don't want everybody feeling attracted to this, because the people that are going to get this life-changing wealth, that they're going to be the right people, the people that are going to do good with it. And so everything's meant to be in that regard. But I wanted to point out that they have every incentive to make XRP go to the absolute moon. And I want to reference that tweet again that I think I referenced last time from David Schwartz, where he literally referenced the potential of $1 million XRP and how that is more practical as a operational model for the blockchain than a $1 XRP simply by efficiency. And you can go back and watch the last video if you want to hear more about that. But basically, the higher the XRP price, the more efficiently that it does its job as a cross-border payment mechanism. And he points out how if XRP was $1 and if a bank had to move $1 million, they'd have to move 1 million XRP. But he literally says if XRP is $1 million, and it's the only time I've ever seen him reference a price. If it's $1 million, they'd only have to move one coin, which is way more efficient on the network. So literally, the XRP-L, which is the XRP ledger, that's the name for the blockchain network itself that XRP runs on, it does better at its job the higher the price of XRP goes, the more efficient it is. And because XRP is deflationary, it's was minted, it was created with $100 billion supply, and the fees for it, unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, where those fees go to the miners, the top holders, the fees on XRP get permanently burned or deleted from the total supply, meaning it is a deflationary asset where the supply will always be going down, as opposed to the US dollar or even other cryptocurrencies that have inflationary supplies that can get run away, like we have with the dollar, right? And like we've seen so many countries do, which is another reason why XRP would make an excellent global reserve currency as a bridge currency, because not only is it deflationary and the demand will always go up as the supply is going down because of the transaction fee burning, but it's it is well, I'm brain farting. I don't remember where I was going with that exactly. But there it is more efficient the higher the price is, and Ripple has every incentive to raise the price as high as they can. And I think Brad is doing a great job out here championing XRP. And I also wanted to say, I've talked about all the reasons I've been drawn to XRP over time, the intuitive hit, the price reevaluation, everything we're talking about. But on top of that, I always vibe out the CEOs or the officials for these crypto companies and what their aura is like, what their vibes like. And I'll say Brad has the best aura, the best vibe out of any crypto executive that I've ever seen. He's not this and really any company, honestly. Like he's not this cold, callous, robotic businessman. He's like funny and charismatic, and you could tell he actually cares about people and he cares about the XRP community, and he's out there talking with them and going to XRP conferences and talking with people on the floor. And he's like a real dude. I can feel it. As opposed to other CEOs, cough cough Ethereum and the creator of Ethereum. There's some MK Ultra vibes. There's some weird things going on that that don't feel right. And maybe we do a whole video about that sometime. But Brad's vibes and David Schwartz vibes have always felt the best to me out of anyone in crypto that is like an executive. And to me, that goes a long way, and it plugs right into the puzzle piece of everything else we know about what XRP is here to do. So we also have the CFTC chair, which is, CFTC is what we were talking about, that he was at this meeting. The CFTC chair, Selig, directs staff to create formal crypto market structure rules if the Crypto Clarity Act fails to pass. Now, we were talking about in the last two videos how the SEC and the head of the SEC was doing the same thing. They were beginning to create formal market regulation structure for crypto, beginning now, specifically with the SEC about fundraising in crypto for startups, but it's the beginning of creating backup plans if Clarity doesn't pass. Because at this point, it's literally almost 50-50 in terms of the right side, the Republicans pretty much all wanting it, and the Democrats pretty much all wanting to vote against it, especially the Elizabeth Warren types and those that are really championing the mission of the big banks and the cartels, the JP Morgans and all those out there. Which reminds me, there is a great documentary called Rigged from the Start, the SEC's War on Crypto, that goes deep into this. I believe it's on Apple TV, Rigged from the Start. You can rent it on Amazon too, I think, but it goes really in depth into how with the Ripple SEC lawsuit, how JP Morgan combined with the Biden SEC combined with Chinese black money front ran Ethereum as the new global reserve currency, while trying to destroy XRP and Ripple through this lawsuit. And ultimately, obviously, it backfired on them. But this is a great documentary that goes really into the technical side of how the essentially the DS was attempting to destroy Ripple and XRP while front running Ethereum and also Bitcoin as the new leaders. And again, it goes back to this idea that I've brought up over and over that whereas with Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of other coins, they're trying to be the new one coin to rule them all. They want to be the new global dominant, replace the dollar. Bitcoin people will tell you, you don't need the dollar, you don't need gold. Bitcoin's the new gold, Bitcoin's the new dollar. They want everything. Now, there's a difference, even energetically, between something that's trying to dominate everything like Bitcoin and Ethereum versus XRP, which from the start is built to connect. It's built to bring things together. It's not trying to compete with the dollar. It's not trying to compete with gold. Yes, I think it's a hedge against those things if those fail. Obviously, if the dollar fails, which is big talk right now, I think XRP is in an excellent position in that case. But it is not trying to take over the dollar. It's literally trying to connect the dollar with gold, with foreign currencies, with natural resources, with bonds, with stocks. Every market, it wants to connect them all and supercharge them all. And I think from both a technical standpoint and a spiritual standpoint, we want to see things that connect everything else rather than try to replace and dominate everything else. And I think that goes a long way with XRP versus some of these other coins out there. So coming back to this, we're seeing these agencies set up backup plans for the Clarity Act. We also have on the Brad stories, Bird XRPL here posted, Brad Garlinghouse liked my post from last night. The one where I thanked him and declared the bull run has officially begun. Lock the F in, right? And here we are, Brad following exactly 589 people. He's been doing that for a while, so there's no obviously coincidence with that. That's very intentional. Every time he follows someone, he's unfollowing someone else to keep that 589. But that is, you know, I think we really have started the bull run again. I've been warning my Conscious Crypto Academy, looking at the Fibonacci chart here, which is all these different colors, which if you join, will teach you how to use this. This is my favorite way to analyze charts. It literally uses the Fibonacci fractal ratios baked into natural law to do analysis on the charts. And you can see that the charts will bounce up and down off of these key Fibonacci fractal ratios, and you'll find what we call support and resistance at different levels. And so this is one of the methods that people use to determine, hey, if say an asset goes over this price or under this price, whatever it is, it'll probably go to either this level or this level next. And they're using the Fibonacci to determine that. So as arbitrary, and I teach this in the fundamentals part of my course, as arbitrary as the markets are and as manipulated and as man-made as all markets are, they still do follow these natural laws. And one of the other things I'm also tracking with some trading bots I'm experimenting with right now is how the different natural cycles play into this. So we know the moon cycles tend to have a role. On full moons, the markets tend to be at relative lows, whereas on new moons, the markets tend to be at relative highs. I'm studying right now and collecting data on how space weather, geomagnetic storms, solar flares, Schumann resonance, how all of that also affect it, because I believe they probably play a role. So I'm actively collecting data and analyzing that right now. I have some bots running in the background that are looking at that every day and drawing new data sets. So what I was telling my crypto group over the last few months is, each time we go under one of these key lines here, one of these key Fibonacci levels, we should kind of expect we're going to go and test whatever the next lower level is. Now, what I've also been saying is that this setup where we pumped in 2025, July 2025, all the way to 360 or so. That was XRP's all-time high. Setting that up to where we are now, we were looking at potentially breaking under this 0.786, and this 0.786 is actually really healthy to come back and back test and touch. Whether you're in a macro market or in looking in a more micro market, you want to see a healthy market that is pumped come back and at least retest this line, the 0.618, if not the 0.786. But then when you start getting below the 0.786, is when it gets risky in terms of crashing much lower to where we originally started. And so I was warning my Academy members, we're in an interesting point right here where because clarity is coming up and there's uncertainty, we don't really know if we're going to get support at these levels or if we're going to break below them. And we actually started to look like, as you can tell, we were breaking below. And then because of the sentiment of this recent crypto summit or thing that they did at the White House, the press briefing, combined with other things, which I'll get into in a second, it was the perfect storm to actually launch us upward. And now, we're looking at, are we going to keep going up or are we going to kind of do a little bit of a retest? Now, already we're maintaining bullish momentum, which is a really good sign. Um, Looking at it right now, I would suspect that if nothing changes in the global, scheme of things, global wars, if nothing negative comes out about the Clarity Act or something, I'm going to guess we're going to keep pumping up and testing these previous lines of what were support, which will be new resistance. And we can see exactly that. Again, it lined up. We went up and exactly wicked to that 6.618 Fibonacci level. And then we went down and kind of had some consolidation, and now we're going back up. So if things continue the way they are, I think we'll keep testing those levels. If we get really good news, specifically if clarity goes through September 15th, I think we're fairly instantly within a couple days or a week or so going to be going back up to these all-time high levels. And if we can pass that, then we're off to the races. So this is really, I want to say like a call to action. If you have been sitting on the sidelines waiting to get into XRP or the market as a whole, I think that this is an excellent time. And I've been telling my members and saying on these videos that, back when we were at these levels and still now, I think this is the best time ever to get into crypto because even though obviously we've had lower prices in the past, and if you had missed those, you look back and you go, oh, I wish I got it back then. You can never really change the past, obviously, but you can make corrections for the future. And I think right now, the relative risk to reward that we have in crypto is the best it's ever been, where the risk is the lowest it's ever been. Specifically, since we got Biden out and Trump in, that risk was way, way down because under Biden, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if they were going to try to do this whole rigged thing and succeed and destroy XRP and front run these other ones. Fortunately, they did not. Um, but we are now going to be on our way back up, I believe, to hitting those all-time highs and then going off to the races to whatever comes next. So call to action if you've been waiting, even if you have a bag and you've had some cash on the side that you've been waiting to put in because it's been going down, so you've been waiting. I would say don't wait any longer. Get into conscious crypto. We'll help you out. I can't technically give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but we do have a group of over 170 people. We've got 130 active members in our group chat. We're meeting every week. Usually we've got 10 to 15 people on a Zoom call every week. Everyone in our group is invited every week. And this is what's really going to, I think, set people ahead. It's these times that the life-changing money is made. You can chase it and try to play catch up when things are already blasting off. But these are the times when life-changing wealth is made. And I would say don't miss that opportunity. If it's been calling to you and you've been waiting, book a free call with me. We'll chat. I typically recommend you've got at least $5,000 or so to be able to put either already in crypto or to put in the market if you're going to join the academy. If you've got less than that, if you're, say, working with only a couple hundred or 1,000, I've got some other options too. Send me an email. That link is down below, and I'll give you those other options for help. But whatever you do, keep an eye on this. If this is what's interesting you and you don't want to miss this opportunity, keep an eye and make sure that you don't let your fear, prevent you from capitalizing on one of the best opportunities ever. Now, what else contributed to this? I asked Grok just to see what it was going to say, and it gave me some other things that I wasn't aware of. So one of the things it said was a driver of this pump right now is take this with a grain of salt. I haven't gone and really done a ton of research if this is super accurate, but macro liquidity boost from falling treasury yields. It says the 30-year yield hit a multi-high 5.34%-ish, pressuring risk assets. The Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the U.S. would double the pace of long-term bond buybacks from $2 billion to at least $4 billion per operation starting September 9th. Yields dropped sharply, 30-year fell to 5.19% quickly. Lower yields make bonds less competitive and free up capital for risk assets like crypto. This sparked a broad market rebound and short squeezes, including Bitcoin, which lifted hard alts like XRP. So, as I've pointed out in the past, everything right now, because we're in the speculative market, not the utility market, everything follows Bitcoin. But there are different degrees of volatility. And even though XRP currently still follows Bitcoin's trends and the market's move is one, I think that that's going to go away in the near future when utility really hits. But even in the speculative market, we see certain assets move with so much more volatility than others. And XRP is the one in the top 10 to 20 that moves the most. And, the evidence is right here. Everything else is up 20, 30% ish. XRP's up 50%. The only other thing that's up a little more is outside of the top 10, Zcash, but in top 10, it's got the crown. So I think, XRP will continue to be volatile. It will continue to surprise people. When it moves, it historically moves without warning and very quickly. This is just a little sampling of what's to come. If you've been in the market before, you've been watching this for a while, even just looking at the chart here, look what it did back in 2024. Relatively what we see right here is just a little blip on what it did back then. And even compared to 2018, when it went from less than half a penny to $3 ish within like a couple weeks primarily. So XRP moves insanely fast without warning, and that's why you got to be prepared. Don't wait until it starts moving before you get in on it. Moving along here. So the other thing that I think is really interesting is, Trump has consistently brought up using crypto to pay off the national debt. Let's go ahead and watch this clip here.
I think crypto's got a great future. I think it really does. Maybe we'll pay off the $35 trillion in crypto. Otherwise, maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion, hand him a little crypto check, right?
So he has said this a lot. It's not just those two times. He's consistently said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could pay off the national debt with crypto? So I think that that is for sure in the pipes. And that is a big part of this plan of creating this strategic stockpile reserve. Part of the reason I think Russia and China have been working to get their versions of the Clarity Act and regulatory clarity because they know the U.S. plans to pay off their debt with crypto. And they also know crypto is the future. And it's not just this debt payoff mechanism. It's this huge cash cow that is, if a country, particularly a superpower, can really get ahead in it, it's going to completely change the global dynamic, which is why the US is committed to being the global leader in cryptocurrency. So imagine a situation where we have the entire US debt, never happened before, paid off with something like XRP. And how easy would it be to pay it off with XRP if XRP did the crazy numbers that we've been hearing about and that we know it's capable of? If it went to even hundreds of dollars, let alone thousands, let alone tens of thousands, let alone the $1 million mark, that seems so impossible, but yet it's the one number that the creator has thrown out himself and has never again thrown out a number like that. And he still has that tweet up, I'm pretty sure. So imagine, what it's going to do for little guys like us. But then imagine with how much the US government holds. 35 trillion is probably going to be a little drop in the bucket compared to what they're going to have post price evaluation. So once again, they have every incentive to pump the crap out of this market to not only help the American people, but to pay off our national debt. And then we start getting into debt forgiveness territory. And it makes me want to pull up the US debt clock real quick because this is a good thing to check in with every now and then. And even though this is a private group, potentially working with people in the government behind the scenes, they're always posting very interesting things talking about debt, debt relief, both on a national level, but for individuals as well. Imagine if people's credit card debts and all their debts were erased because of this, and we could actually prosper and actually have, people that are living paycheck to paycheck actually have the means to have a nice life, like we saw back in like the 60s when people were doing really well on a single income. So this is a huge part of it. The gold-backed treasury dollar, I believe, is also going to be a part of it. If there's a reevaluation of foreign currencies, it's all linked in together. So keep an eye on it. Moving on. Goldman Sachs reclaimed its position as the largest disclosed XRP ETF holder with $86 million invested across 5 XRP ETFs. So that's like, I mean, That's a lot of XRP. That's a lot of XRP. I'll just say that. And going back to this with what Grok said, it did say one of the reasons is heavy whale accumulation and solid ETF inflows. And if you're unfamiliar with an ETF, that is an exchange traded fund. That is when a institution like say Fidelity or something that you have a mutual fund or an account with, an ETF allows them to use something like XRP or traditionally something like gold with a gold ETF to represent that investment in their customers' portfolios without them necessarily knowing. So it's another way to provide inflow into these markets for people that are or in institutions that are a little more conservative to be able to have exposure. And so, it says mid-sized whales bought around roughly 300 million tokens, $400 million in the 96 hours into August 21st. Spot XRP ETFs also saw strong inflows over 39 to 40 million across 4 days, including a single day above 18 million, one of the strongest sessions in months. This reduced available supply and added real buying pressure, which goes back to what I've been talking about too, that we're in for a liquidity shock with XRP. There is only a certain amount of that supply that is publicly available for purchase by people like you and me on exchanges. Last I heard, it's around 3 to 4% of the total supply is actually what is publicly available. So post Clarity Act or post clarity of whatever kind, when these institutions have the full green light, it's only going to take a couple $1 billion buys from some big groups to completely dry up that liquidity, where all of a sudden there's no more XRP to be bought on the exchanges. And that's what we call the liquidity shock. And that's what can create a massive, explosive, instant reevaluation of the price, because these institutions that like Ripple is selling to, they're not buying this as an investment vehicle. They're buying it as a technology to cut down on expenses in cross-border payments and utilize it as a technology. And that's the utility-driven market we're talking about that's going to decouple XRP from Bitcoin, because once XRP has that liquidity shock, which is inevitable, once that supply dries up and once it's being used with regulatory clarity for cross-border payments all over the world, that's when we could see insane valuations, because those groups that hold it are not going to be selling it for any price, because whatever value the price is, the value of it as a utility function, as a technology, is going to exceed that. Plus, it doesn't hurt to have a massive investment vehicle that's going to make your, balance sheet as one of these companies probably be the number one thing on their balance sheet that makes their company valuable. So there's multiple sides to this, but in any case, there's every incentive for XRP price to be as high as possible. And it doesn't require that amount of money to inflow into the market to create that high market cap. It's just supply and demand. A good example of this is, you can go create your own coin right now. And if you make 100 billion coins and you sell the first one for $1, technically that market cap is $100 billion, even though you sold it for $1. So market cap with crypto is really completely irrelevant. And the critique that a lot of these cynists have, that, if XRP is ever $10,000, where's all that money going to come from? That's like multi-quadrillion dollar market cap. That couldn't flow in. They're not understanding market cap is completely irrelevant. All it takes is supply and demand, and for a supply shock. And when the supply is gone and those that hold it need to use it and refuse to sell it, that's what creates instantly a crazy high market cap, plus the liquidity to actually back it up, which in the example I gave of having a dollar sale on a coin you made, yes, the market cap is worth that much, but it doesn't have the liquidity, the depth, the ability to continue to sell that asset at that price is liquidity. And this has the perfect setup for that. So basically, if you're not into all the technical stuff and you're like, I don't care, what I'm trying to say is this is set up to be the best thing that has ever happened in terms of investments and life-changing possibilities. So, don't miss out on that. We talked about this guy. Another thing to keep on your warning radar, the IRS right now, or not the IRS, the IRS is warning of fake IRS letters that are going out that have a QR code, and it's telling people that they need to stay compliant with their digital assets in their filing. And it looks super official, and it's like you got to scan the QR code to begin, doing your submission correctly with the digital asset compliance portal. And then what happens when you scan that QR code? you get your wallet drained, right? So this is another reason why it very much pays off to have a group you can check in with, like Conscious Crypto, where you can come, whether it's something like this or it's one of the, you know, millions of scammers online who are very proficient in acting like customer support or someone you would trust, and then they scam you for all your money. This is why it really pays to have a group you can come check in with regularly and be able to say, like, yo, I got this weird letter or I got this weird message. Is this legit? Is this fake? Help me out here. And that's what I can help you with. One of the things I can help you with. The other thing to be aware of is this is one of the things that having a cold storage wallet like the DCENT can help prevent. These kind of wallet hacks are typically on a hot wallet, one of the free app wallets that you'd get, which is usually people's first step. So, another reason to have the cold storage, because if you've got the cold storage and it's separate, it's not living on your phone, it's its own device, scanning a QR code is not going to drain that wallet like it could with having the wallet on your phone. So that's where hot wallets can be super risky, because clicking a wrong link, talking to somebody wrong, scanning a wrong QR code can trick your phone into doing a transaction where it sends the scammer all your money. Whereas with the cold storage, it takes a lot more effort to get into that wallet, and we can help protect you and prepare you, and also quantumly resist your wallet against quantum computer hacking, which is something that's becoming more and more of a talked about threat. So if you want to learn how to quantum resist your wallet, how to set up your wallet correctly, how to avoid scammers, Conscious Crypto will help you out with that and give you a regular community to check in with, get updates. Even once you're caught up with all of our educational material, we're learning together every week, right? That's when it really starts, because that's when we get into like, okay, let's go on the weekly briefings. You don't have to pay attention during the week. You live your life. You come check in with me once a week in our group calls. I'll give you what you need to know, and then you go live your life and make the decisions that you need to make based on that briefing. And then another interesting note, GTA 6, obviously a big meme. You know, People are constantly talking about all the things that have come out before GTA 6. One of the big things with GTA 6 that's been speculated is that it's going to be using cryptocurrency in game. And that's one of the reasons it's been postponed for so long, because we need clarity with the regulations in order for this kind of thing to really happen. This says GTA 6 leakers claim the game will feature in game currency that can be exchanged for real life money. Oh, that sounds a lot like crypto. I would not be surprised that they create their own cryptocurrency in their own market where you can swap between different cryptos, use it as in-game money, and then obviously it's real life money too. And that's when we start getting into really interesting places in terms of, however you feel about it, but in terms of virtual reality and the metaverse and all that. GTA 6, I think, will be a big mover in that, and being able to make money online, being able to utilize cryptocurrency in a game to actually make real life money. And then another interesting note, just with the energies, there was a big 6.0 earthquake this morning in Japan. And obviously, there was a lot of earthquakes over the last week. So, energy wise, I feel like this is another symptom that things are heating up. Earth changes, as well as technologies that people are using, wars going on behind the scenes. Sometimes it's hard to really tell what we're seeing, if this is a natural earth thing or if this is something like HARP or something that is a symptom of weather warfare. But that's pretty much it for today. So that wraps up our summary. And again, book a call with me, 30-minute free strategy call if you're interested in joining Conscious Crypto Academy and you've got over $5,000 either already in crypto or that you want to invest in crypto. I also work with people that are bringing in a lot more money. So I work with people that are bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars. I do have a personal one-on-one mentorship program as well that is available, which if you book this free call with me, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the pricing, but that'll give you multiple one-on-one calls and direct access to text and messaging and contact with me while you're also going through the regular academy. So you get access to all the group stuff in the community and the course, but you also get one-on-one help so that we can get you there essentially, as quick as possible. Which most of the time, in a week or a couple weeks, if we do them back to back, we can get you caught up on everything that would take other people months to normally get to. So it's very worth it if you're coming in with a larger amount of capital and you don't want the headache and you want someone that can help you learn how to do all the technical stuff, make sure it's safe, and have a group that you can bounce ideas and strategies off of. I can't give financial advice, but my group, they're not limited to anything. So I will always give you my strategies, and that's what I do in the academy. I cover what exactly what I'm doing, but I can't make recommendations on what you should do, but I can show you how to do exactly what I'm doing and also show you how to do other things that you want to do. And that's the other beautiful thing about the group is that even though I'm XRP crypto focused, we have a lot of people doing other kinds of investments, people doing gold and silver, real estate, reevaluation currencies, all sorts of stuff. So it's a really fun group, and it is an awakening group at its core. We're talking about all the other stuff going on with the awakening in those group calls and in the chat. We're talking about, parasite cleansing, the jab. We did a group remote viewing session together. We talk about the e-files. We talk about the disclosure files. Whatever is hot and relevant that week, nothing's off topic. And so I find that people are very happy about that when they don't expect it, that a lot of people are living their own lives and don't have, well, everyone's living their own lives, obviously. That's not the right way to say it. A lot of people are living lives where, the people that they're surrounded with, they're not able to talk to about the things that they're thinking about all the time. So this gives you not only a community, an investment community to talk about all this stuff, but a community to also talk about everything you're going through with the awakening, bounce ideas, bounce, business ideas, strategies, services, healing modalities. We talk a lot about different healing stuff in our chat, parasite cleansing, water filtration, food. So it's very much a full circle, wholesome group, and that's why it's Conscious Crypto Academy. And I don't know anybody else that's doing this on this level of combining the awakening material and crypto and really synthesizing it into one thing. So if that interests you, book that free call with me. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out, and I will see you in the next video. Drop a comment on your thoughts and what you would like me to make videos about in the future. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one, guys.